Hi moms, it's a new year. And the cup I've chosen for today is blessed, right? With all my lipstick, because we are blessed. Even in the days you feel your lowest, even in the days where your child has like every behavior you can think of, you're blessed. I know it looks like I'm going sleigh riding, skiing, out to make a snowman. I never know. My husband likes to keep it really cold, and I actually just finished grocery shopping and I refuse to take off my hat. Maybe my husband's gonna see this video and maybe he'll turn the heat up a little bit. So because it's a new year, I wanna talk to you about something. I wanna talk to you about hope. So the moms that I coach, what they soon find out from coaching with me is that it's not really the right diet that's upsetting their household and that's causing the obstruction. They think if they knew just the right strategies and just the right diet, then they could endure this and cure this and they move forward. And the one thing that I'm constantly coming back to with moms is their level of hope. Hope empowers us to believe. You need to get this, if you get nothing else. In order to see breakthrough in our lives, we need to embrace hope, period. That's it. You have to start from that place. I know what it's like when you wake up and you're like, my life and my child, and I can't do this, and this diet is too hard, and his behaviors are too much, and the school's gonna call me, and it's just never gonna work, and we're gonna go this many steps forward, but we're always gonna come this many steps back. I just need to tell you something. It's because your level of hope, and I get it because I've been there, your level of hope is like negative. It's negative. We can't see breakthrough. We can't even endure the morning. I mean, right? Those mornings before the kids even get off onto the school bus, and forget it on the days if they're home virtual during this season in our lives. If we don't have hope that everything's gonna be okay, our day is already done before it begins. So what I want to talk to you right now is instilling hope and building up the hope that you have. And I just need you to know that the way that I was able to get hopeful on the days that seem so dark is, for me, I was always researching. I was always looking at recovery stories, and whether it be about ADHD symptoms or autism symptoms or stroke victim symptoms. I was even reading books on Parkinson's, anything neurological, I was reading it. I was after all of those stories that seemed like needles in the haystacks. And then I'd say, okay, how did they do it? And if they did it, why can't it be replicated? And the more that I read and the more that I immersed myself in stories of recovery, the more my hope grew. And when I'd have this hope on a day when it seemed like all was lost, or we had gone a few steps backwards, or we had tried a diet and I saw reactions that I hadn't seen before on certain foods, or we tried different strategies and then they weren't working, I had a reserve of hope. I had a reserve of hope. So when I would see certain things, I could easily go into this reserve of hope that I had, and I'd look at Charlie, and in that moment, I'd say to myself, he's gonna be okay. He's gonna be okay. And see, because if you can look at your child and know that they're going to be okay, and I mean really okay, not just like we're gonna get through it, they're gonna really be okay, in that very moment, you change your perspective. In that very moment, you change your words, you change your tone, you change your decisions, you change your life, and when you do that, you change the life of your child. You have to understand that your level of hope is what is also carrying your family's climate in your home. If you walk around anxious and depressed and upset, constantly questioning yourself, then the climate in your home is that of chaos, anxiety, and depression, and then you wonder why it's also allowing your child to feed off all of that. You have to understand, if you're the primary caregiver, I am talking to you. So whether you're a grandparent or you're the dad, you carry the power in your family to create the climate. We oftentimes think that our difficult child is causing the climate in our home. And you are absolutely correct. If you're gonna give your child that power, if you're gonna give your child, that seemingly difficult child, the reins to carry the power throughout your home and set the climate, then you've given it. If instead you say, no, I'm gonna say what the climate is in this home. If you look at my website, the reason it's called livewithjoynow.com is because I had to get to a place where I no longer could live in chaos, live in anxiety, live in fear, all those things. That's what dominated my life for so many years. It was wreaking havoc on my marriage. It was wreaking havoc on the other siblings that my kids had. I mean, it was a terrible place to be. The reason I call my website Live with Joy Now is because I don't want you to go through what I went through. And so these videos are trying to show you, well, what did I do? What did I do that brought me success? And today's video is that it is the climate of your mind. Really, you need to renew your mind and you need to walk in hope. You need to walk in faith and say, this will get better. When you do that, you will not run after a specific diet, a specific strategy necessarily, although I have a lot of ideas for those concepts to help you. But instead, you walk after a climate in your home. You refuse to say, my home is going to be dominated by chaos. And when you look at your child, maybe your child is just going off the wall and it's before bedtime, right? Well, maybe you're going to find a new strategy. And if you need help with that, absolutely message me on Facebook. But if you need a strategy, I can give you a strategy. But when you can at least take a moment to realize how much you are feeding into your child's behavior, then you will start to pull back on your anxious behavior and your depressed behavior and your fearful behavior. And instead you take back the reins and you stay calm. So when you see your child acting in a particular manner that you don't like, you don't feed it. You don't give it energy. You take stock, you say to yourself, I know he's gonna be okay. And you do a different strategy. You come at it from a different way. Here's a perfect example. The other day I was doing homeschooling with Charlie. And as we're working together, he is just not paying attention. And I started to get angry with him. And I'm like, come on, get back. We gotta finish this. I've got somewhere to be later. We gotta get this math done. We gotta do this. And all of a sudden I stopped myself because I also realized it wasn't working. And I realized I'm feeding this behavior. I'm feeding this anxiety in him. I am feeding this unfocused attitude in him. And instead I quickly told myself, he's gonna be fine. And I looked at him and I said, I love how you are so focused right now. He looked at me, he couldn't believe it. He's probably like, what just happened? I love how you're so focused right now, and that even though you don't feel like doing your homework, and even though you don't feel like doing this math problem, you are so fast at doing this. Now, was he doing that in that moment? No, he wasn't. I spoke the opposite into him. I spoke life into him. I brought him back, we got back on track, because I allowed myself to see the future Charlie. He's gonna be okay. You know, it reminds me of when he couldn't tie his shoes, for instance, and he was 10 and a half. Sometimes when I would try to teach him, I was so frustrated and I was so worried and I was so concerned. And when you teach from that place, you're gonna get nowhere. So interestingly, when I started to put all these concepts into place, the ones that I use and the ones that I teach and the ones that I coach with, when I came again to having to teach him how to tie his shoes, it was different. He got it in seconds. Now, was his brain also ready for that? Absolutely, his brain was ready for that. And was he ready to take in the concept? Absolutely. But I also knew when it was time to teach him to tie his shoes, because I was calmer. I was picking up signals from him. By that point, his diet had been really nice. He was on his supplements. He was on a supplement regimen that he hadn't been on before. He had that magnesium in him. He had that B6. He had a few other things, but he was in a good place. But I also was looking at him from a place of, we can do this. We can do this. Again, moved forward. So the takeaway today is that you have more control in your home than you think. And when you realize how much control you have, it causes us to not be so worrisome. It causes us to not be so fearful. It causes us to just take a moment and go, okay, how can I look at this differently? You need to remember that in order to see breakthrough, you need to embrace hope. Hands down. Anything you've ever done in your life, take your child out of this picture for a second. Anything you've ever done in your life that has been successful, you had to embrace hope first. You had to do things scared. You had to feel what it feels like to be scared and do it anyway. You have to be a mom right now that says, I don't really want to embrace this fear anymore. I don't want to be that mom that flies off the handle when I see a behavior that I don't like. I don't want to be that wife that keeps crying to her husband every single night because the day went awry. You know what I want to do instead? Okay, I want to do the opposite of that. I want to say to my husband at night, wow, today was interesting. I noticed this, this, and this, but I stayed calm each time. And the calmer I stayed, I'm realizing I'm getting more clarity on why Johnny is behaving like that. I'm seeing I'm making a difference, and it's not always him. It's something I'm feeding. It's an energy I feed to the household. And your husband's gonna be like, wow, who is this person talking to me? Because my wife is typically crazy pants, and she's usually all over the board with how upset she is and how worried she is. And I just want to tell you, when you allow hope to take over your heart, right? And you allow your mind to be renewed and look in the ways of hope, you change everything. You change everything. So I just want to give you that today. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Join my Facebook group called Take Control of ADHD Now. I love the conversations I get to have with people. Or message me on Facebook. If you need coaching, let me know. I'm so excited. I offer programs and I offer just sessions, however you like it, but I'd love to hold your hand and walk you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. Healing is totally possible. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You got this, moms.